YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we lived in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Demi Moore, who has been acting for over 45 years, has won her his first award for acting. It says, I'm just in shock right now. So in 45 years, everybody knows who Demi Moore is. Demi Moore has never won any award at all. Not even an award for worst actress. Demi Moore has won nothing. And do you think it's a coincidence? Because there's a few things circling around this story. That Demi Moore's first win ever is for the film The Substance. The film is about the fountain of youth, so to speak. It's about a character who faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her, and amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself. You might remember the Illuminati card game, which has a card called the Immortality Serum. It's no coincidence that in the card game, that liquid happens to be a red substance that you are forbidden from actually talking about. And Demi Moore, I've shown over the years, we've seen the all-seeing eye symbolism, the Masonic, esoteric, black and white symbolism with Demi Moore. And of course, Demi Moore is a Kabbalist. So good for Demi Moore as he wears its red bracelet every time it's out and about. Used to be out and about with Ashton Kutcher while he was wearing his Freemason hat and not hiding his true allegiance as to why he loves the black and white symbolism either. But you may also remember Demi Moore and that bizarre video clip, which you're not allowed to show, where she's hanging out with a very young boy, and I can give you 1,000 guesses, but you only need one as to what happens next while Demi Moore is sitting next to this very, very young boy. But this film is about a red liquid. It's a very potent and expensive drug, and it's used by people, well, like Demi and her friends in Hollywood, as well as your people in politics and your people in business and corporations, and pretty much all the rulers of this earth. And I'm going to play for you the trailer for this film so you can see just how this was strategically given to Demi Moore. This is not an over-the-top acting performance. This is pretty much a horror film, which rarely ever do any actors win any awards for horror films. So you could just see how they're rubbing it in our faces, because the film is about something they covet so much, the fountain of youth, so to speak, and that liquid that they covet so much. So this was a reward for Demi for taking on the role, obviously, and them holding up a middle finger saying, hey, we're going to continue to do this out in the open. We're even going to tell everybody out there what we partake in, and we're going to continue to not be arrested, never be held accountable. And of course, we'll make you think that the swamp is going to be drained and all these people are going to be rounded up, but it will never happen in a million years. And after I show you this trailer, it gets more interesting, because I want to show you the correlation between Demi Moore and what they put on the screen as Demi Moore is awarded this award at the Golden Globes. But let's start with the trailer.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect.
pretty girls should always smile.
Yeah, so that looks like the type of film, right, that would win an award. I mean, of course, this film only won an award because they wanted it to win an award. When they give these films awards, it ends up giving them more praise, and then more people go see these films because they say, wow, I heard it won this, I heard it won that, it must be pretty good. And of course, this is an award for Demi for all of her years of service to the United States government, of course, because that's what Hollywood actors really are. So the other thing that I want to show you is that when Demi Moore is announced as the winner of this award, I want you to take a close look at what pops up on the screen. Because they pop up on the screen. You know, it doesn't say Demi Moore. This is Demi Moore's first Golden Globe ever. It doesn't say Demi Moore. This is the first award in the history of Demi Moore's life that it's ever been given. No. It says something very, very bizarre. Take a look.
Demi Moore.
This is Demi Moore's third nomination and first win. She got the script.
So you may have noticed it said Demi Moore was born in Roswell, New Mexico, a town famously associated with alien conspiracy theories. Now, why in the world? At the Golden Globes, this isn't some minimalistic award show in Hollywood. They're all minimalistic, but in the scheme of Hollywood over the years, there's pretty much the Oscars, the Emmys, and the Golden Globes. Those are the big award shows. Why in the world would they put that on the screen about Roswell, New Mexico, a town famously associated with alien conspiracy theories? Well, of course, because what they're referencing there actually relates to what that movie is about, right? Because everybody out there who knows about the conspiracies in Roswell, New Mexico, mostly everybody has heard about it, but the Roswell conspiracy, for anybody who's new, is the theory that alleges that a UFO crashed near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, and the U.S. government subsequently covered up the incident by claiming the debris was from a weather balloon, while in reality it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft and its occupants. This theory stems from the military's initial press release stating they had uncovered a flying disc before retracting the statement and attributing the debris to a weather balloon. So everybody looks at Roswell as really the first official government cover-up of what we're told are UFOs and aliens. But really what Roswell is about the Babylon working, the experiment done by Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard, who is famous for creating the Church of Scientology. Jack Parsons, famous pretty much for being a rocket scientist who developed JPL, which is known as the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and has his origins go back obviously to the creation of NASA. And Aleister Crowley, who is known as what? Well, referred to as the Beast Incarnate 666, as the man whose rituals they still follow to this day. And the Babylon working is really what led to the beginning of the UFO phenomenon, because this ritual that was done, which involved a lot of youngsters, which they won't tell you about, which again goes back to that liquid that is needed in these rituals that happens to be red, the liquid that they're referencing in that film. And during this ritual, they attempted to invoke the Moonchild. Some say that's Mae Musk, that it's Elon Musk's mother, is in fact that moon child. But for anybody out there wondering, once this event occurred, once they did the Babylon working, which they claim was a success, that is when, right after it, shortly after it, the first reported incident of UFO or alien encounters and supernatural phenomenon started occurring in America, where people were reportedly seeing these demonic entities walking the earth. And Roswell was supposedly the first place that this occurred, according, of course, to what we've been told from our government, and everybody knows when it comes down to this UFO deception that they're planning to release information in the future, finally, about Roswell. But make no mistake, the things that they're referencing that they're going to call gray aliens are in fact demons. demons that were invoked from Crowley, from Parsons, from Hubbard, and it all came to a head during the Babylonian working, which occurred in the year 1946, and then we had our first official UFO spotting in 1947. Here's a closer look at the Babylon working ritual.
This is the story of the founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the founder of Scientology and a secret ritual that was performed in the desert one fateful night in 1946, where a portal was opened and spiritual entities, i.e. UFOs, came through, heralding the beginning of a new era of humanity. In the vast spectrum of 20th century occult practices, few have garnered as much attention and controversy as the Babylon working ritual. Orchestrated by the enigmatic figures of Jack Parsons, a brilliant rocket scientist and co-founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, and L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, this series of rituals sought to manifest the Thelemic goddess Babylon and usher in a new era of human consciousness. But what was the true nature of the Babylon working? And what does it tell us about the convergence of science, religion, and esoteric pursuits in the modern age? To fully grasp the significance the Babylon working, one must first understand the Thelemic backdrop against which it was set. Aleister Crowley, a British occultist and mystic, founded the religious movement of Thelema in the early 20th century. Central to Thelemic cosmology is the figure of Babylon, a goddess figure embodying the liberating forces of the feminine divine. In Crowley's vision, Babylon would play a pivotal role in the forthcoming Aeon of Horus, a new era of human evolution and spiritual emancipation. Jack Parsons, an ardent follower of Crowley's teachings, believed himself to be a key agent in this coming transformation. While many knew Parsons for his groundbreaking work in rocketry, fewer were aware of his deep engagement with the occult. In early 1946, Parsons was joined by L. Ron Hubbard, an aspiring writer who would later achieve fame or infamy as the founder of Scientology. The two embarked on the Babylon working, a series of rituals designed to incarnate the spirit of Babylon into human form, ultimately aiming to birth the so-called Moonchild, a magical child heralding a new dawn for humanity.
You've looked into the satanic side of the occult, correct?
They practice satanic worship.
He said he was conceived out of a nightmare during some satanic cult ritual.
Drawing from a combination of Thelemic rites, Enochian magic, and their own innovations, Parsons and Hubbard conducted the ritual over several weeks. They believed their efforts bore fruit when Parsons met and became involved with an artist named Marjorie Cameron, whom he considered the earthly embodiment of Babylon.
There was an event that took place back in the late 40s known as the Babylon working ritual. Now, this was a ritual that was carried out by Jack Parsons, JPL. You know, people will even to this day say that JPL stands for Jack Parsons Laboratories, but on paper it's Jet Propulsion Laboratories. JPL is major. It's a historic, so much surrounding this, so much history here. Jack Parsons was not professionally trained, yet he was tapping into high technology and building rockets. How do you do that without any type of formal training? There were no rocket programs in America before Jack Parsons. This is paramount to understand. This guy was tapping into Theosophy, Thelema, the religion of Aleister Crowley, getting these from another realm.
From that point, they ripped a hole open into space-time. And from that point afterwards, you had, regardless of what Parsons actually successfully completed during that with the Whore of Babylon and different things. After that, you had the Roswell incident, you had the Kenneth Arnold sightings, you had in 1953 there was the swarm of UFOs that flew over the White House. And so there's this unleashing of supernatural activity that took place after that ritual was performed.
Babylon working was successful according to Jack Parsons. Matter of fact, Parsons said in his Antichrist manifesto that they were successful and that a child was conceived in that act, and that there was a spirit known as Hilarion. The Whore of Babylon was what they were trying to bring about. They believed what we believe, and that America was the final Babylon. Like, this was the revived Babylon. They believed it, and they were occultists. We're Christians, and we believe it. There's evidence to back this up. But yes, let's backtrack just for a second. What happened was they opened up this portal. They created a rift, and entities began to come through. Not just this Whore of Babylon being birthed, but other entities, because people all over the place started having paranormal encounters, and they began to report this to law enforcement, report this to the FBI, report this to whatever agency they could get in touch with. And so the federal agencies said, we've got to come up with an answer for this. We were not prepared for any of this. There's UFO activity. There's talk of entities and demons and winged creatures and just all kinds of weird, just paranormal, demonic activity following this ritual that Jack Parsons said finally worked. They did the ritual for a couple years. It finally worked, finally stuck. And that's what a scientist does. A scientist is going to work at something. He's going to work at that hypothesis until it's proven true or false.
The ritual also underscores the blurred boundaries between science, religion, and magic in the mid-20th century. Both Parsons and Hubbard, each influential in their respective fields, were deeply enmeshed in occult practices, reflecting a broader societal fascination with the unknown.
It's delinquency. It's satanic.
Some kind of ritual, satanic in nature, I don't know.
Satanic ritual?
Oh, all the time.
Just as Parsons and Hubbard sought to channel otherworldly energies through their ritual, society at large became captivated by the notion of otherworldly visitors. Aleister Crowley, the foundational figure of Thelema and a significant influence on Parsons, once sketched a being he contacted during an earlier ritual named Lamb. The visage of Lamb bears an uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of grey aliens, with its oversized cranium and piercing almond-shaped eyes. Could magical rituals, like those of Crowley and later Parsons, serve as a bridge between dimensions or realities, possibly connecting to extraterrestrial realms? As we stand at the crossroads of science and spirit, perhaps we'll find that magic and mystery are, in fact, the very fabric of the cosmos.
So do you think it's a coincidence that all of this alien activity occurred right after the Babylon working ritual occurred? Of course not. It's not a coincidence at all. They're correlated. Just like Lam, that demon that Aleister Crowley drew and wrote about in his books and his teachings, is what we see as the depiction in modern movies and modern everything as what a gray alien is. So back to Demi Moore, right? Isn't it interesting because it's believed that these things feast off of that specific red liquid that you're not allowed to talk about, right? And that by doing those invocations with that red liquid, these people become under a form of demonic possession, so to speak. So Demi Moore happened to be born in Roswell, New Mexico, and they wanted to let you know, for whatever random reason, of all the things you could possibly put up, imagine that this was all real, that these actors were actually really hardworking people who were dedicated to some type of skill, which they call a craft, which is nothing more than witchcraft, because that's what we're seeing taking place, is spell casting on the people who watch these films, etc. But let's just say hypothetically, it's all real, right? These people worked hard, they got there. You finally, after 45 years, everybody's heard of Demi Moore for the most part. Demi Moore was a household name in the 80s and 90s, right? You finally win an award for the first time. People finally are going to take you seriously, right? And on the screen, what does it say? It doesn't say Demi Moore. This is her first. Demi Moore's been a working actor/actress for 45 years. Nope. It says Demi was born in Roswell, New Mexico. And that's not the end of the sentence, right? Because randomly, why would they be telling us where Demi was born anyway when winning an award? Nothing to do with the film or Demi's resume. No, Demi was born in Roswell, ... home of the famous alien conspiracy theory, right? And of course, anybody who studies all of the things that I discuss on this channel, or what we would call conspiracy theory when it comes to demons and red liquid and what they feed off of. Well, how ironic that the film that Demi Moore wins the award for just so happens to be about that topic. Well, there's no irony. There's no coincidence. It's all deliberately done. It's all revealed right in front of our faces. And that's why they put that on the screen. So Demi Moore, after all these years, finally wins an award for the substance. Everybody out there is talking. It's trending all over the place. About time that Demi won, right? Because the sheeple do as sheeple do, right? They're excited because they might have seen G.I. Jane one day where Demi was really revealing itself. Or maybe they saw Striptease, or maybe St. Elmo's Fire, whatever else Demi Moore was in off the top of my head. Those are the ones that jumped out. And they're saying, yes, we're excited, right? They can't even see what the film is actually about. How these films never win awards, these horror films. And of all the movies that Demi Moore's in, this is the one that Demi Moore's going to be recognized for. Because it's a film that's out in the open, a lot like Leaving Las Vegas, which you're not allowed to talk about, with Johnny Depp, right? That film's about the same exact subject, so it's not a subject that they talk about too often, but that's what the film is about, and Demi Moore happens to win based on that, and then they let you know the connection between Demi Moore and Roswell, and of course Roswell is really the after effects of the Babylon working ritual. And of course, that ritual is all about that red liquid that the film Substance just happens to be about. I thank everybody for being here. There's a world of coincidences, right? Not quite. They continue to reveal themselves right in front of our faces every single day. Literally every day. You wake up and you see one of these stories and you'll see a connection to the stuff that we talk about. Right? It's not like we're pulling things out of a hat. I mean, home of the conspiracy of aliens, Demi Moore, they put it right on the screen, right in front of your faces. Nobody goes, well, that's really strange and random, right? Then you look at the correlation between the aliens, Demi Moore, and the red liquid. I mean, every day they reveal themselves. It's just a matter of whether or not the sheeple out there want to actually believe it or accept it. And the information's presented to them. They just have a tough time wrapping their head around it. In most cases, it's that the sheeple don't want to believe it because they enjoy living in the simulated reality, the dystopia, the Pleasantville, so to speak, that they live in, where they're completely oblivious to what's actually happening around them. Sometimes it can be hard to accept the truth, but guess what? I'd rather be awake in this horror story than sound asleep, walking cluelessly off the side of a cliff straight into the abyss. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.